Hello there everybody, Mr. Del Pazzo's Hands here to do an art activity with you. We are going to create a winter scene. And we're going to create this winter scene by using paper, but also if you look at those trees carefully, can you see the words written on those trees? Those are pages out of a book, out of an old book that we can recycle to create our project. So you can either have an old book that it's okay if you tear some pages out of it. You can see this is a really old book that the pages are like yellow. They don't have to be yellow, they can be white. If mom and dad have some newspapers around the house, you can use some newspapers. You don't want to use newspapers, the parts of the papers that have people's faces. That'd be kind of creepy if you had a person's head sticking out of your tree. So you're going to use, you can see I use a part of the newspaper here for my tree where there was just a lot of words on the page. So you could pick out parts of the newspaper that are just words on paper. So books or newspaper or both. And of course you'll need a piece of paper. You're going to need some watercolors, a bucket, a brush. And I'm going to use a Sharpie so you can see it a little better. You don't have to use a Sharpie, but you can. And I'm also going to use some crayons. You might as well just bring the whole box, but you're definitely going to need a white crayon. You might need a green crayon. I'm going to use gold and silver, and maybe even brown. We'll talk about what those colors are for in a second. So what you might want to do is just kind of collect your supplies, and then just come back and then just play the video again so that we can do it together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some snowy hills. Again, you can do it in pencil. I'll use a Sharpie so you can see it a little bit better. And this is really, really simple. Right, we're just going to make a couple hills. You can make your hills smaller than mine. My hill, that was kind of a big hill. It's just meant to be like snow, a snowbank. Once we're done drawing our hills, we need to make our sky. Now, if you want to make snowflakes, in the picture I just showed you, their snowflakes are white circles. I don't know what they use to make that. But an easy way to make snowflakes is to take a white crayon and just to draw some snowflakes. Now, easiest way to make a snowflake is just an X with some lines through it, right? X, up and down, sideways, boom, 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 boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Little snowflakes, big snowflakes, whatever you want to do. You might want to practice those. And then I'm going to make snowflakes with my white crayon on my white paper. Now, you may have done this before. We may have done this in class. You're not going to be able to see what you're doing, but that's okay. They're still there because we're going to create something called a resist. So I like to go back and forth a couple times just to make sure the crayon's on that paper really, really good. So there's my snowflake. Can you see it? Isn't that pretty? You can't see it. I can't even see it, and I'm sitting right here. Now, I'm not going to waste too much time making snowflakes because I want to show you the rest of it. But when you're doing yours, you can pause the video until you are done making the snowflakes. I'm pressing down kind of hard. You can see my crayon's kind of falling off, crumbling, and that's normal. I don't even remember where I put snowflakes now. I'm going to press nice and hard. You can see I'm going back and forth on each line 2 or 3 times. Get rid of some of those little crumbly parts. Now, I can watercolor my sky, and because the snowflakes are made out of wax crayon, it's not going to stick. You'll still be able to see the snowflakes. So I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to get some blue. I'm going to use a light blue just because it's daytime. That's a lot of paint. The more water you use, the lighter it comes out. So sometimes you don't even have to go back and get more paint. You can just go back and get more water. Oh, look at my snowflakes. See, they're there. I told you they were there. You can make it go light to dark. You can see where if I just use my water, it's a very, very light color blue. And if I go get some paint, it's going to be a little bit darker blue. My paper is soaking up the water very, very quickly. So I have to work very fast. You don't have to work this fast. You don't want to. Now you can do a lot more snowflakes than I did, because you can see I scrubbed really good with my crayon, and because water and wax do not stick together, the water just rolls off the wax and sticks to the paper. And we've got a beautiful sky. Look at it, isn't that pretty? Very nice. Now, you're going to want to take this and put this someplace to dry. This is probably a good project for 2 art classes. You can do all your watercolor stuff the first day, and then the next time you have art, you take it back out, and you can glue everything together. So I'm going to take my little Winter Wonderland background and put that off to dry. Bye. Now I'm going to get my pages out from my book. Now this is a very small book, so I wouldn't be able to make really big trees with this. You just tear out your page, something that has lots of words on it. And all I did is I drew. Now I used Sharpie. You don't have to. I did that just so you can see. When you cut this out, we really don't want to see the black lines. So you probably will want to use a pencil. If I used pencil on here, you wouldn't be able to see it. So all I did was just draw a triangle. Now you're going to want to do them all different sizes. You know, I didn't make any little trees, but you definitely want to make some little trees. Those can be in the front of your scene, and in the bigger trees can be behind them in the back, peeking out the top. And you can make as many trees as you want. You can see on this picture, they made quite a few trees, and they're all different sizes. They have a really big one in the back there. You can even make little tiny ones. They didn't make any little tiny ones, though. So you're going to take your pencil, draw the triangle. You'll notice that I did it only where the words are. And then I took my watercolor. This was a lighter green, and I watercolored all over that tree. You'll notice that I didn't even stay inside the lines. You don't need to stay inside the lines because we're going to be cutting those out. Then I took a darker green, and I put on that. That way the trees are different colors. And then you're simply going to, well, actually, before we cut them out, we need to make our lines. Now you can see this one I did black Sharpie lines, like the branches of the tree and the trunk of the tree. And this one I did silver. You can use black, you can use silver for the lines, you can use a gold crayon, you can use a brown crayon. You might even be able to use a green crayon. Right? If I was to take this light green tree, I could do a dark green line right there. And it's so simple. You can make much more detailed branches if you want, or you can just simply draw little straight or curved lines for your branches. It's a very, very simple way of making branches on a tree. See that? On this one, I don't think I'd be able to use green because you wouldn't see it. So I'm going to try brown on this one. Might have to go over the line a couple times. Like Mr. Del Pazzo did not let his tree dry very good, and the brown is not sticking. So you do not want to do your crayon on top of something that is wet. Remember, when I made my snowflakes, I did my snowflakes first, then I painted over them. If you want, you could, once you draw your tree, you could do your crayon first. If it's Sharpie, you can actually do the Sharpie first too. The water will not hurt the Sharpie. So whether you're using Sharpie, silver crayon, brown crayon, green crayon, whatever you're using, it's probably a better idea to do the crayon first. Then we can watercolor over it. You can even take a paper towel or a napkin and pat it on there if it's sticking to your crayon. But if you do really dark, scribbly crayon lines, the watercolor will not stick to it. So once this is dry, and this one I'm not even going to cut out because it's very wet. Once they're dry, you can cut them out. Now, if you use a pencil, you can cut right on the pencil line. I'm going to cut inside my black line because I don't want to see my black line. And you're simply going to cut out your tree when it's dry. It might take an hour or two, or even you may want to cut them out the next day or the next art class. All right, so you're going to cut out your trees. This one's dry. I can cut this one out too. I don't have any little tiny baby trees. You know what? Maybe I want to make this one. I'm going to make this one a smaller tree. Even though I made a big tree, I drew a big tree. I think I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller because I don't have any small ones. Boop, just like that. I clean up our mess. There it goes. So I've got some trees. I'm not going to make all the trees. You can make as many as you want. And once everything is dry, you will take your scene back out. So what I would recommend is that you do all your watercoloring the first art class, put everything away, and then the next week when you have your next art class, you take all your stuff out. It'll be nice and dry. My sky is still wet, but I can touch it. And you will simply put your trees, if you have little trees, you're going to want to put them in the front. And you can place your trees. Remember, this is just like the forest. I don't want to cover too many of my snowflakes. So the trees are going to be in all different places. I could put one down here. So you can arrange them however you want. In the picture, they have, how many trees do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They have like 13 trees or so. 13 or 14 trees. You can do a big one in the background. But you see they have some down in the front. They definitely want to be touching the snowbanks. Otherwise, they're flying trees. And that's a whole nother project. So you can do as many trees as you want. Remember to do your snowflakes first on the white paper. Draw your hills. Color your snowflakes with white crayon. Paint your sky. This could be a sunset. You could go from yellow to orange to red. It doesn't have to be a blue sky. And then your snowflakes will show up no matter what colors you're using. And then you'll put that off to the side, work on your trees, draw big trees, little trees, medium-sized trees. You're using the pages of an old book or a newspaper with words on it. So we're going to be recycling, which is great. Draw your branches on first with whatever color crayon or Sharpie you want. Watercolor them, different shades of green. You can even have they don't have to just be green trees. They can be whatever color trees you want. And then once they're all nice and dry, you're going to cut them out. The next art class, you'll arrange everything, move everything around right where you want it. You can have as many trees as you want, and then glue them down. Remember with glue, if you're using the white glue in the white bottles, a couple little dots, that's all. A little dot there, a little dot there, and maybe 2 or 3. No big puddles that'll squirt out all over the place. If you're using a glue stick, well, that's great too. Remember, when you use a glue stick, you want to put this on another piece of paper, a scrap piece of paper. And then you turn this over and then you put your glue stick. You don't want to be using a glue stick over top of your nice picture. So you could put your glue stick all over there if you're using a glue stick. And then you can put them wherever you want. And no matter what kind of glue you're using, you have to make sure that you rub it down really good. Otherwise, the glue will not stick. But I recommend that you arrange all of your trees on here first without glue. That way you can move them all over the place, anywhere you want. And then once you decide this is exactly where I want them, then you can start gluing them all down. You've got this beautiful forest on a nice little snowy hill. Mr. Opazo's hands saying, have fun. Make sure you put them on seesaw because I want to see them when they're all done. And that's it. Adios, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Opazo's hands saying goodbye.